says she's on hold. Did you put her on hold?
Beautiful swimmers, losing the fight, constant shadows of night into the night.
Hello.
Hello? Hello? Okay.
All right, we back, guys. We're back.
Latinas make history every day. Okay. Can you read it?
Hello?
Well, how do you say this one? Latinas make history every day.
Miss Rodriguez?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Good. I just asked you to join my live on Instagram. You're on the radio, so you're live on 91.3 FN WBNY here in Buffalo at Buffalo State University. I'm so sorry about me running a little bit behind, but I am so excited to talk with you.
No problem at all. Thank you. I appreciate the love. Good morning, Buffalo, because it's really early
Good
out here
morning.
for me on the West Coast.
Yeah, let them know. Can you let them know your name, your title, and where you are giving us the privilege to call in from?
Absolutely. My name is Cristina Rodriguez. I am the creator and founder of Latinas with Masters and the Latinas with Masters podcast. And I am live out here in the San Francisco Bay Area.
That is incredible. So I went to your website and I was blown away. So let's tell the story of how you got here. Like, I am obsessed with identity specific platforms. I noticed yours and your impeccable branding, which I am always driven to. I clicked the follow button with no fear whatsoever. And I've subsequently been able to see such inspiration of so many Latinas who are entering higher ed. And it's really been a huge source of motivation for me.
Oh, thank you so much. That's it's motivation for me too. Listen, as someone that is also navigating higher education, both as a professional and as a doctoral student, the people that I meet every day on Latinas with Masters inspires and motivates me every day too, because it gives it a name and it gives it validation that the work that I'm doing and that we're doing together as a collective needs to be done. And so thank you so much for those kind words.
No, that's real stuff. So I my first person that I ever interviewed that was from a identity specific platform was Latinas Uprising. And it was one of the first identity specific platforms for Latinas in the law. So when I saw yours and I saw that you were a doctoral student, I was like, let's go. Nothing like a little, with a Latina with a little bit of a doctorate. Tell everybody what you're studying and how you made that decision to study and what your doctoral path has meant for you.
Absolutely. So, I applied for my doctoral program a couple of times. I applied to USC and I actually got denied.
Okay.
And before the pandemic, and I cried a little bit like Kim K, the little ugly crying face.
I bet you they're crying now.
Yeah, who's laughing now?
I don't mean to be like that. I'm just
and so, but no, I let myself process my emotions, because it's a real emotion. It's a real thing that everybody goes through. You invest a lot of time to apply to a graduate program and there could be a possibility that you can't get in. And there's an expense to it, correct? I'm sorry?
There's an expense to graduating or to applying to a graduate program also, which I feel like is a barrier for a lot of people.
Fee, the deposit to hold your place if you get accepted. Absolutely. And so I didn't get in. And so I went ahead and said, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and take a little break and see if this is something I still want to pursue. And I did. And I was able to apply to Mills College in Oakland, which is out here in the Bay Area.
Let's go.
And honestly, I'm so glad that pathway, was for me, because everything happens for a reason. Yes. And I'm in a great program with great people. And, all my degrees are from the Bay. So I'm very proud, to represent that as well. Another identity specific. It's very important to me too, coming from the Bay Area, that people, we see each other, that grew up in the same neighborhood in the same city. And, we're here, elevating each other. And so when I got accepted to my graduate program, which is in education, the pandemic hit. And so I was also, with everybody else, what's going to happen with higher ed? I'm hearing all the news, on top of everything else that we were experiencing just as a society, I was also experiencing it as a student, and as a mother. I have kids too, and
Yeah,
so
I know. That's so awesome.
oh my God, it was definitely, we're definitely resilient, let me tell you. But I had a very supportive professors. I had very supportive community, and we all got through it together. And before I even, got into my doctoral program, I had the idea of Latinos with Masters. I was thinking of like, during my master's program, I was the only Latina for like the majority of my program.
Oh my
And
goodness, really?
I did.
Because
And I
the
felt
only cousins I have in all of California are in Oakland. I don't know them, but Titi was like, that's where they are. And I was like, of course. Because that's like, I feel like one of like the most like well-known, like unique, like Buffalo, like California cities. And like, y'all take your football serious. So I was like, of course they would be in Oakland. So when you said you were enrolled in a school there, I was so excited.
Oh yeah, listen, the people out there and out here in the Bay Area, I mean, it's very intentional, when we do things, just like everybody else, everybody has pride, where they grew up and the experiences that they went through. And I'm a firm believer that just because it was hard for me doesn't mean it has to be hard for everybody else. And so I had that mindset going into this program, and the same intentional message with Latinos with Masters. Like I said, there was one point where I wanted to be an attorney, and I was looking up to like Latina women that I was engaged with when I was doing my internships, and I didn't get advice. They were just basically telling me, it was hard for us. I don't know, figure it out, go through it.
Or don't go. Some of them told me don't go. I was like, how you would tell me not to go when you went and survived?
Exactly. Yeah, it's very mixed messaging, right? And so, I created Latinos with Masters because I wanted to share not only my experience during my master's program, but also share my doctoral journey in real time. And part of that was experiencing the pandemic. Part of that was my school being, merged with Northeastern University.
Oh.
Part of that was me being a mother in academia. Part of that was me looking for a job. I mean, these are all real things that everybody goes through and not everybody shares because there's a taboo or you're going through mental health and nobody wants to share it. But I'm here to like dismantle that. Like, why not? Why not?
Tú eres bien auténtica. That's why. That's why I messaged you. I just cold messaged you. I didn't even know you, and the energy you sent from your page, thousands and thousands of miles away, made me feel like it was okay to message you.
Oh well, that's definitely the intention. So thank you so much. And I say that all the time. If in general, if you see somebody that you want to, learn or get to know, it doesn't hurt just to reach out to them, network, and the worst thing they can say is no, Right. And I'm the same way. I be, reaching out to accounts too. And I follow Latina Uprising.
Do you?
I admire. And
big ups to her. We should have both of you on the line at the same time.
There you go. That'd be dope. And that's the other part.
Yeah. And she's in Chicago, right? So big ups to Chicago. We love you.
Chi-Town. Hey, I've been to Chi-Town. It's super dope. I like it too. That's the other thing about Latinos with Masters is it's collaboration over competition. You know
Absolutely.
what I'm saying? Like you can offer the same thing. You can have the same merchandise. You can, reach out to the same people, but I'm not here to be a competitor. And I don't want you to feel like I'm a threat because I'm not a threat. I'm here, to help and provide and empower with whoever that resonates with my page, or even if you don't resonate with my page, you just want to follow and you just want to like hang out, like this information is out there and it's going to help someone, if not yourself,
Okay, so tell you, tú y yo tienen el mismo apellido. We have the same last name, as well as so does someone who is a Latina attorney who inspired me a lot, who's now actually, and I can say happily in City Hall. But for all the Rodriguez people, we all come from different places and different cultures. So I actually didn't meet someone who was from a culture that wasn't Puerto Rican until I think I was 18 years old. Can you tell them what Latino community you're representing and a little bit about what it's like to bring that sense of pride with you into higher ed and those doctoral spaces?
Absolutely, girl. So I am 100% Nicaraguense. So
Big huepa, sorry.
Yeah, I know, right? Like
Big huepa.
Nicaragua, Nicoya, Central American, and, I grew up in San Francisco. There is a strong community out here of Nicaraguenses and Central Americans. And I have family that live in Florida, very strong, Nicaraguense community as well as Cubans and Dominicans and Puerto Ricans and stuff. But, I take pride of being Nicaraguense, and I just, again, I didn't see myself in these spaces, right? Even when I read literature right now, as I'm writing my dissertation, there isn't any literature made for me. There isn't as many Nicaraguan authors as I would love to see in this space that I can quote back my lived experiences. And so this is where the community comes in, right? We have shared experiences with Puerto Ricans, with Dominicans, with Chicanas, right? With Mexicanas. And so, and that's part of why the identity portion of me is so important, because yes, although we have shared experiences, it's also different, right? In many ways.
Right, absolutely. And some privileges that are inherent to my community. And I'm like, we need to talk about those that are impacted that don't have those privileges, because it's our responsibility as Latinas. We speak for everyone, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so, so I'm very proud to, and it's so, I love it too, because I'm the same way. And I notice that my daughter is too, is that if we see anything Nicaragua, rather it's, we're watching Law and Order and they mention someone's from Nicaragua, or if we're watching something on TV, like a cooking channel, and they're saying, oh, this is a Nicaraguan dish, like we get ecstatic. We're just like, okay, rewind. I want to hear it back.
Yeah, of course.
And I just saw my daughter, she said that to me the other day. And I was just kind of like, wow, that is so beautiful that, I'm first generation, my daughter's second generation. And here we are still embracing, our Nicaraguan culture and being Latinas and whatever that means for us.
You're a national leader. Like I reached out, I'm in Buffalo. Like I reached out to you. You were on my suggested page. And when I went there, I was like, this is amazing. Like I want to follow this person. We have the same last name, obviously, which I'm partial to. So like, I'm just so proud of you that you have this amazing empathy and like compassion to share. And that energy is going nationwide. So like, where's the farthest place other than Buffalo, which you already know I'm on the other side of the world? Like someone has reached out to you on the platform and been like, oh my gosh, I see you. Like you're a hero.
Internationally. I mean,
really? I don't know why I should sound like surprised by that, but like how far?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I know that I have people in Germany. I have people in London, in Cuba, and Spain. Those are also individuals that, have their master's degree too. They're Latinas with maestrías, right? But also they want to come to the United States. So some of them reach out to me and say, hey, I have a bachelor's in my country, but I want to get my master's in the U.S., And so that is something that I also help and support. And, whatever information they need, I'm happy to be a resource.
Send them to our school. We need students. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Absolutely, yeah. And then even nationwide, like Texas, and I have a strong audience in Los Angeles, as well as the East Coast too. Believe it or not, the East Coast actually y'all give me my flowers a lot. Like it's dope that there's people from New York, that and there's always like, just naturally this East Coast, West Coast vibe, but it's I love how we can embrace, me being from the West Coast and you being from the East Coast, and it's all love, let's just not talk about baseball or football and we good.
Word. And I think for me, because my grandma actually marched with Martin Luther King in Puerto Rico. They didn't get the right to, they meaning women like nosotros, we didn't get the right to vote in Puerto Rico until like the 1930s. So she saw suffragists, and ella tiene como una energía pa luchar, pa pelear, tú sabes. Pero like always this attitude like como junto, like the more Latinos, the more diversity, the stronger we were. And like for me, I feel like it's a privilege to be able to follow you and to be aware of things that are concern of you, or songs that you like, or food that you like. I remember, I think I asked you, I was like, yeah, I'm coming out there. I was like, what should I eat? That was my number one question. So I think it's like you by putting yourself out there are building strength within our amazing Latino culture, because you're giving me like a window into your life and into your culture, which I think is super cool.
Oh, thank you so much, girl. Like I said, I would never have dreamed, being where I'm at today with Latinas with Masters. I know there's so much more, but honestly, I just created an account like, hey, let me just share info. Let me just share pictures. I think one of my posts was Eva Longoria, representing her, that she has a master's, and, things like that. Like I just started just, putting my MBA tuition dollars at work. I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to treat it like it's a business,
Okay, so I have a million questions for you, but I will ask you this, and then I'm going to let my producer, Willie, ask you a question, because I know he's reflective and asks really good questions that always adds to the conversation. But like for me, one of the things I always wonder is like, at what point did you say like, I'm going to be in this higher ed space. Like my activism is going to be in part by my own pursuit of those credentials, because I think people don't understand the doctoral journey. I didn't understand what it meant to become an attorney or the process immediately afterwards. So like, when were you like, one, I'm brave enough to share this with the world? And then two, like, when were you like, I'm going to commit my life to this? Because as you know, pursuing credentials at that level, that's a lifetime commitment.
Yeah, I feel like I experienced higher ed in phases. When I was getting my undergrad, my bachelor's degree, I felt like I was doing it more for my parents, being first generation, being the first in my family to graduate. It took me 10 years to get my bachelor's degree, right? I did not give up. I went to many community colleges, but I got it through. And then when I got my master's, it was more, it was a personal thing, but it was also for my family because I wanted to make more money. I wanted upward mobility, in the housing industry where I was working in. But it wasn't until I got into my doctoral journey and I started really learning about the inequities that exist, in society, in our education, things that I've already experienced as a woman of color, as a Latina. However, I didn't know the name of it. I wasn't able to name it. It was normalized to me to experience microaggressions, right? And so it wasn't until, I was reading, literature and just hearing the experiences of other women, I was just like, oh my God, that happened to me too. Like, wait, what is it called? Hold on, imposter syndrome? Like, I know how that felt, but I never knew that there was a name to it. Business school is not telling me about imposter syndrome.
No, business school is making you feel like that and charging you.
Yeah, business school, it does not talk about how, as women of color, I was going to show up in the business space. No. You know what I'm saying? And so those are definitely important conversations that should be, talked about in the classroom. And so, going through my doctoral journey, it became my healing journey, and I started healing like the inner child in me. I started healing the Cristinita in me. I started healing, the way I show up in the business space. And then that's when I realized that, I know that there's other women and Latinas going through the same thing that I'm going through, and they can't name it, or because, for whatever reason, they're not in the higher ed space. They don't have somebody that can tell them. And so then I'm going to break that gap, in graduate school, that you're going to know what a microaggression is. You're going to know, how it is. You're going to show up in the corporate space. You're going to learn how to do salary negotiation. You're going to learn about your rights as a worker, your rights to get housing, your rights and everything. And so that's when I knew that my passion and my advocacy showed up naturally. And there was a period of time where the corporate spaces that I was in was suppressing me and basically watching me throw my identity under the rug. And it wasn't until, again, I was learning from my professors who are Black women, very strong Black women, as well as my colleagues in the classroom, is when I said, this is exactly where I need to be. And I just remember the moment where I just cried, and and I was just letting myself cry. I was giving myself compassion to cry and be like, wow, I've been holding this in for 30 plus years, and never have I felt so seen, so heard, so validated. So I'm going to pour in that same energy into Latinas with Masters, however that looks like for anyone, And so that's when I knew, and the fact that my daughter's 10 years old and she knows what it is to get a master's. I could not.
You already know how we're coming. Yes.
What that is. Yeah. Literally yesterday I was having a conversation with my daughter, and we were watching actually Law and Order SVU, and one of the detectives was like, oh, I'm getting my master's. I'm getting an MPA. And my daughter looked at me and she was, wow, Mom, look, they mentioned masters. And I'm like, you see, Giselle? And so she was, and I said, you're going to get your master's too. And she goes, I know. It's just like, I'm normalizing that.
That's. I feel like that's generational wealth. But I know, Willie, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask how she balanced life, family life with work. She already gave an example with her watching TV with her daughter, so I already got a little bit of it. But I just want to also. I put Cynthia Rodriguez. Is that okay?
Because I'm dyslexic, so sometimes I use the wrong name.
It should be Christine.
Yeah, it should be Christina.
I'll change that later. All right.
Christina, one of the things that I wanted to say, though, and I'll say a little bit about my experience, but I did want to ask you about privilege. But to your point, Willie, how let's rephrase the question. Like, how do you balance everything?
Yeah.
Like time
Right.
and.
Hmm. It takes a village, let me tell you.
Okay, good. Once again.
It takes a village.
Takes a village.
Communication. Like for me to even consider getting my doctorate degree, I had to have a conversation with my husband. It was a hard conversation, because we were in different mindsets at the time with what that looked like as a family, right? But at the end of the day, he was very supportive, and I tell him what I need. Hey, I'm going to be writing my dissertation for the next 2 hours. Can you please, watch the kids? And it's not that he's not involved, or it's not like, really, you have to tell your husband that? No, it's just for me, because I need the mental space. I need to be grounded with the work that I'm doing, and so my parents help me out a lot, and I have siblings that are great as well. But honestly, it's the support of my husband and communication, and really raising my hand and saying, I need X amount of time for self-care. I need X amount of time to do the research. I need X amount of time to write my paper. And, he's not a mind reader. He doesn't know exactly what I'm doing and what needs to be done, but he's experiencing it. And it also, it's also part of his life and his journey too.
Right.
And I always say this, that I honestly feel that our spouses should definitely get an honorary degree, because now my husband talks about navigating spaces and conversation that we were not having when I was in business school or before.
Good.
So he's also aware of the work that I'm doing and the energy that I pour into. And so he also makes sure that I'm loved and supported and seen and heard in my own home through what he's able to provide.
Wonderful.
To me.
You just answered a few questions.
There you go.
Especially with the communication with the husband and wife, that's important, and how you guys grew together. So that's awesome.
Is your husband Latino?
He is, yes. He's Mexican.
Oh, that's awesome. So the reason why I ask is because I'm actually biracial, and you said something that I think kind of impacted me. So Buffalo is traditionally a very insular community, so very specific communities live in specific places. And I remember feeling like I had to make a decision about if I was going to lean into being Puerto Rican or care to know about my history or that part of my identity. And I think you talking about the layers of identity and how going into corporate spaces made you feel really wanted to make me reflect on that, because I think inherently there are some privileges I get because I'm biracial and I'm white presenting. And when I started reading some of the research, because I was looking for it, right, and articles and literature around Latino spaces and reading articles about people. I remember the first time I read the phrase white presenting Latino, I was like, what? And then I was like, but wait, but that's me. But then at the same time, I was like, but do I need a word? So how would you say providing this overarching community has helped kind of Latinas juggle all those intersectionalities we have within our identity? Because so many people think we're the same, but there are so many different types of Latinas.
Yeah, I feel like the groundwork for me started, again, going back to my doctoral program, when my professor, one of the assignments was check your privileges. And I was like, what does that mean?
It's pre-reflection.
Everybody go around and check your privileges. And I'm like, wow, that's really in Oakland fashion, right? Just blah, blah, go. And so, and the privileges I have is, I was born here in the United States. I speak the English language, and I have experience in housing. So even though I did experience some housing insecurity, I know how it is to secure housing. I'm a homeowner. There's a lot of privileges that I have, especially, again, going through academia, right? But I'm also, darker complexion. And, I passed as Puerto Rican Dominican.
I thought you were Puerto Rican immediately. I was like, oh, ella es boricua, tiene el mismo apellido de yo. Y I seen your bandera. I was like, oh, huepa.
Yeah, I know. I was just like, and so I passed as being Black. And that's all okay to me, because I know at the end of the day, I'm representing Latinas, again, having that shared identity, right? But my kids are lighter complexion. They have my husband's complexion. And yeah, my daughter is probably just like you, where she is white, presenting Latina. And so, God, that's such a big question.
Because I asked you because you're from California. I was like, y'all are progressive. But as you process it, I just want to say, one, I'm super proud of the California public university system and the amazing Latinas that I have met that have gone through that system. And I feel like it reminds me a lot of, like, the love y'all have for knowledge reminds me a lot of our state. So
no,
I'm
yeah,
just,
absolutely. New York and California, we're right there, girl. Along with the high rent prices, we there, girl. We in competition with that. You know?
okay, and then the last, okay, not the last question, because I have questions for you for life, because obviously we're going to be connected for forever, but this is a question that I have, and you are alluding to this. How do you handle going into those academic corporate spaces where you are speaking or expected to speak or have the privilege to speak on experiences that maybe you didn't live? Because a lot of times and it's so crazy, I tell people, there's a girl on the other side of the country whose last name is Rodriguez, who's being held by the government right now because they're saying that she's not American enough. And people look at me like, why are you talking about that? I'm like, because we have the same name. Like, for me, it's like, how do you manage those experiences? Because that's the way that I draw, like, make it relevant to my listeners. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, absolutely. You know, it's me personally, I just have confidence. I don't have imposter syndrome, if you ask me.
Right.
You know, like if you were to ask me, 5-7 years ago, yes, I did. Because I was seeking validation from the wrong people, obviously, in the wrong community. You know what I'm saying? I don't need validation to be Latina. I don't need validation, of who I am with this community, because you just are, like you said earlier, like I just show up authentically. You know what I'm saying? And so now that I am, in higher ed and in corporate spaces, I no longer seek that validation. If they want receipts, I can show them receipts. There's people that, there's people that validate that technically the diploma, like the title under your name. Okay, good. If you validate that, then I have that. But me, Christina Rodriguez, I'm not going to allow my community to seek that validation from you. But if I need to navigate this space and you validate me so then my community can be seen and heard, then so be it. You know what I'm saying? And so it's almost like I thrive off being told you can't do that or you can't be in this space. I thrive off that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Then you'll see me later. You know what I'm saying? Like, it may not be right now, but you will see me later. And so,
and then I'll be like, and I'll be late. So I'm gonna need you to crack that door open like 5 to 10 minutes later.
Exactly. You better make it like on time. Yeah. I'm gonna show up in the Latino time. No, but yeah, absolutely. It's like, it's just, I feel like everybody has to do like their own work on who they really want to seek validation from. Sometimes we don't even need validation, but sometimes, in order for us to show up for ourselves and for our kids and however we want to show up, sometimes we may seek the need to validate. And so that's what Latinas Unmasked is about. It's about, yes, I see you, girl. Like, okay, you over here. Like, I see you. Like, a lot of people are celebrating their wins on social media, and I repost and I
love
and
that.
They tag me and I comment on every single comment. Like, that is me, one person, you know what I'm saying? And yes, homegirl, I see you. Like, okay, hermano. Like, and what I love about it is that when I started the podcast, I had Latino men reach out to me.
Yeah,
saying,
can I
like,
come on your podcast? I wanted to
like,
beg you, like, on air, because it's more pressure for you to say no. But I'm I'm so impressed by that.
Absolutely. I would love to have you on my podcast. Listen, like, men were coming out to me talking about, hey, what's up? Like, Latinos have masters too. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Let's talk about your story. You know what I'm saying? So I had Chicanos. I had, Joseph, who was formerly incarcerated. Now he's about to get his master's from Long Beach State.
That's what's up.
We talk about mental health in men. We talk about LGBTQ. We talk about Joteria vibes. We talk about everything. Listen, there's no limits. I'm not asking permission for anybody to do what I need to do to show up for my community. And that's the whole reason why I created this platform, was because I'm tired of asking permission. I was literally like bleeding in the ears telling my company, like, let's create housing education. Let's talk about the undocumented community. Let's talk about these college students that we're, charging an arm and a leg for them to pay rent. And they literally were like, no, we don't have the band. We don't have the capacity. Okay, well, I'm just going to do it over here, because you can't, this is public information. You can't tell me not to do something. And that's exactly what I did. And I've been doing it for 5
And
6
that's
years
a good
now.
American way to do it. when someone tells you, that you can't do it or that it's wrong, you gonna do it, and you're gonna think about how to rub it in their faces.
There's a lot of gatekeeping in those spaces, and let me tell you, Latinas with Masters is not gatekeeping anything when it comes to however you want to show up in whatever, situation that you're in. I may not know all the answers, but I got a Latina with a master's or an attorney or somebody with something, and we'll figure it out together. Like, don't even trip. Like, I got you.
It just, the power that you're bringing to all of us and that our identity-specific platforms bring, I think it's really hard for me to articulate, especially being in higher ed. And I think I reached out to you because I had told you I sent an undergrad, un Dominicana from the Bronx, and it was her time to make her decision, and I sent her your platform. And I was like, claro, like, follow this platform, immerse yourself in it. And she wasn't even sure if she was going to make the decision. But what I asked her, I begged her, I said, just follow it, right? Because I knew she was going to get that positive reiteration of the message that she needs to get. So you said that you could have me on your podcast. That makes me so happy. I definitely want to connect in like a longer way. There's so many different questions I have. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my projects, but very humbly, I just want to acknowledge like the legacy of the activists from California who have inspired me. Dolores Huerta, primero, like I got to meet her, and like it was just in LA. I was floored. So like for you being from California and bringing this beautiful energy of like unity, like it just makes sense to me in the spirit of her that like you're a strong like leader from California. I'm just so grateful that you made time to speak with us, because it's earlier over there, right? Like you were trying to explain it to me like this is the beginning of my day, girl.
It is, girl. Like, I don't
It's like saying
early, but I do it with love and I do it with intention, and I have no problem waking up honestly and doing the work and just, I know how it is to want to hear someone that looks like me, that has shared experiences, or even to be like, oh yeah, I'm curious. I'm interested in learning more. Like I also seek that same vibe and energy, so that's why I do it. I come with it with love and compassion.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm gonna send you a couple follow-ups. I definitely want you to read my column, and I also want to write about you. I have like this project where I write about different Latina women, and I just want to like ask you, because we are gonna have like a lot of students from all across the country listen to this. With God's blessing, like as we close this space, like can you, Willie, unless you had a last question, could you give like your piece of advice to like an undergrad that maybe feels like college isn't for them? Like, what piece of advice would you give to someone who's like on the periphery of like the higher ed world that like you want to bring like closer?
Ooh, man, I feel that if you are an undergrad right now and you're feeling college is not for you, take the space and time that you need to reevaluate to see if it's something that you want to do. It's going to come naturally. You're going to have your own epiphany moment, whether you decide to pursue it or not. But if I had to encourage you, I would encourage you to stay in school and definitely finish, because, it's a beautiful feeling, for your parents to see, their children graduate from college. It's a beautiful feeling for you to have that title, to have that diploma in your name, and so if you're going to go off, just the feeling of what that feels like, then I would definitely continue. Listen, it took me 10 years to get my bachelor's degree, and I went through hell to get through it. But at the end of the day, I got it. And once you figure out what you need to know to navigate higher ed, it becomes easier, and you start learning how to play a game. Higher ed's a game,
I say it's like shopping.
Then you got it. And that's exactly what I did when I got my master's and my doctoral. It's not going to be perfect. There are going to be challenges, but now I know how to manage it, right? Now I'm just kind of like swinging and dodging, like, oh, that energy's not for me. Oh, I'm going to avoid that, But I definitely recommend just do it if you're considering it, and definitely don't give up if you're so close just to graduate.
Okay, so as we close the show, I'm going to call you Dr. Rodriguez, and I'm going to ask you to remind the listeners what percentage of Latinas have their master's degrees.
Yeah, so there's different data points, and I say that.
Give us the number that you think is like the most realistic.
Yeah, I want to say it's anywhere between 2 and 4%.
2 and 4%,
regardless.
National. You are representing, yes. Christina, thank you so much for motivating me from Buffalo, for motivating people internationally. Please, if y'all are listening, follow at Latinas with Masters. And if you will, I would love to write about you for Latina History. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Buffalo. Bye.
Bye, you're an
make history
inspiration.
every day. Okay. Can you read it for me? Well, how do you say this one? Latinas. Latinas make history every day. Okay.